All right, I want to welcome everyone to our May installment of Tableau Tuesday, where we're going to focus on augmented analytics. So don't be scared of this person behind me because he's not going to take over your minds today. And he's really here to help augment the data insights that you're looking to get. Just as an introduction, my name is Brian Medeiros, and I'm a principal solution engineer for Salesforce, really focusing on all things analytics, specifically Tableau. And I've spent the last 6.5 years helping our enterprise customers see and understand data. And when I'm not doing that, you'll find myself outside on the golf course, kayaking, trying new foods, or even trying to hang out and continue to connect with my 18-year-old son. And I live down here in sunny Southern California, so I'm able to do a lot of that stuff year round. I want to just start by thanking all of you, not only for being on this webinar today, but also just being a customer for however long you've been with Tableau. And working with customers, we're so impressed with your commitment and progress on transforming the way you do business, leveraging data. And we truly feel that our future partnership is bright as you move into the next phase of analytics, wherever you might be in your journey. So I'm super excited to be talking about this today. This is the wave of the future. And so our agenda today, we're going to talk about our view on augmented analytics. We're going to look at how we augment analytics through Ask Data, through smart recommendations, explain data, or you might hear it as explain the mark, some new predictive functions that we've added to our calculation editor or expression editor, and then our really cool integration between Tableau and the Salesforce platform, specifically Tableau CRM, which was formerly Einstein Analytics. And then we'll wrap up with some Q&A. So what is our view on augmented analytics? So augmented analytics really gives you, Tableau users, new ways to see and understand the data without the requirement of having to learn, advanced analytic techniques. We've embedded AI and ML capabilities in a way that's very easy to use, so you can more quickly make better business decisions based off your data. I always like to start this type of conversation by talking about and reviewing the analytics continuum. This is a Gartner released this a couple years ago, and Gartner is a third-party analyst firm that says a company or business must answer these questions with data in sequence. So if we pause to think about this, it makes sense. So we can't answer the question, why did it happen, until we understand what happened. And if you think about it, if you're using Tableau today, that's the ability to look at dashboards and then, as an analyst, go in and undiscover and, slice and dice the data, drill into it, add more context to figure out why it happened. And then we shouldn't try to answer how can we make it happen until we know what will happen. And so, we feel we have within the platform now, we can follow this entire analytics continuum. And as we talk to customers, some people will say, hey, Brian, I know businesses attempt to answer these questions every single day with or without data. And you would be correct. But by combining things like gut and experience, within your organization, you have people that have been there, they have tenure, they know the business inside and out, they've been part of the industry maybe that you fall in. They know some of the trends and things in your business. So gut and experience is such an important part of this. But by then supplementing this with self-service, which Tableau has always had, as well as the power of machine learning and AI, we can really start to augment that information and make it easier to uncover some of the insights. And then with this, the hope is that you become a better data-driven organization and continue to get an edge on your competition. So taking a step back to consider the disruptive potential of AI, we believe that there are two distinct and complementary opportunities. The first opportunity is automation. This is taking a human out of the loop and replacing a task or process with a model or an algorithm. Things like RPA, robotic process automation, or fraud detection are just a few examples. Well, more accurate, objective, and efficient. This makes us more accurate, objective, and efficient, and will relieve humans of of those recurring predictive tasks and free them to really focus on the high value work. And then the second opportunity is around augmentation, which is really enhancing the human's capability to understand the world around them, allowing them to make better decisions. So why augmentation? So, we've always stuck to the mission from day one that we help people see and understand data, and we want to just make that even easier. So we really are investing our AI focus entirely in this area of augmentation. But we're not done with our mission, and with this augmentation or this AI ML capability comes some challenges and opportunities. So what are some of those challenges that we might see in this area? Analytics is still too hard to use. So it does take a while to become proficient at Tableau. There is an easy layer of Tableau where you can get some ad hoc questions. It's easy to drag and drop. But it also can be challenging because even data scientists can use this platform. So we really like to lower the barrier to entry for any user. And then the second challenge is really the data just keeps growing. And so it's more varied than ever. It's growing increasingly challenging to uncover useful content built into it. So, the bigger the data set, the more fields we have to deal with, the harder it is to do the analysis through some drag and drop. And so we want to make that easier. And that's where we're introducing the concept of Tableau Business Science. And so, again, lowering that barrier, enabling business users and analysts to make smarter decisions faster. And we do this through, sticking to the Tableau way, make things simple and fast. So clicks, not code, guided model building, and revise that deployment approach. So just it drives faster decision making. We want it to be trusted. We want it to be ethical. We want it to transparent AI through model monitoring. And then we want it to all be fully integrated. And the areas of investment that we are making are shown here. So from left to right is Ask Data, which we're going to talk about, explain data, smart recommendations, and some advanced analytics through integration with the Salesforce platform. And the other kind of sub mission or mantra is we know that people that are close to the data, that understand the data, should be the ones that should be asking the questions. And this is, we believe, anybody within the organization. And so we're going to start with Ask Data. Ask Data, Ask Data, okay. Again, this was launched in 2019.1. It's our natural language querying in Tableau. And again, we want to make it easy. We want to allow users to answer questions they might have using natural language, or this same way you might go into a Google and search something or talk to Alexa or Siri. We want to make sure it's powerful. So we want statistical inference and semantics that are built into the product, and to allow these questions to be interpreted so that you get the right results. And we also want to make it flexible to customize those synonyms and data roles. And then we want it to be fully integrated. We want it to be, to streamline the governance, permission, and leverage key data assets that you already have within your server. So what is Ask Data? So we look at a question like this: how are recent sales for chairs in Cali? And there's a lot of vagueness to that question. So, what is recent? What defines recent? Is it a year, 6 months, a month? Sales. Maybe we have a different term for it. Maybe it's known as revenue or cash or income. Chairs. Do we know if it's a product or a category? And then Cali, we assume that means California, but a computer is very precise, right? Compared to a person. So when you ask Google Maps and another person, how long does it take to get to the other side of town? You're going to get something very precise from a machine, say 25 minutes. But from a human, you may get something vague, like about a half an hour. So interacting with a machine usually requires you to be more precise than just talking to it. And the response you get back is going to be also very precise. Whereas when you're working with a human or talking to a human, by somebody just telling me about, half an hour, we understand maybe that vagueness and maybe how long that might take. And then, a question like this is very natural for us. So we want to be able to offer that within a data insights experience. And then so again, why is it hard? The importance of context is so important. So if we look at, this statement, 6-foot doctors work at the hospital. So it's not 100% clear if we're talking about tall doctors or 6 actual podiatrists. And then to a computer, if we look at something like the roads were so icy, all words carry the same weight. Computers are very democratic. They don't understand that certain words have more impact than others when conveying a message. And then idioms like raining cats and dogs. As humans, we know it doesn't actually rain cats and dogs, but I don't know, a computer may think that dogs and cats are actually falling from the sky. So, keep these challenges in mind when you also interact with Ask Data, because I'm sure we've all been in a situation where we've asked Siri and Alexa and we don't get the exact response we are looking for, and we have to ask again. And sometimes it could be a little frustrating, but within Ask Data, we're going to actually try to provide some flexibility and options to steer you in the right direction, which we'll see in a minute when we get into the demo, hence the augmentation. So we've built this intelligent query understanding to start to remove some of the ambiguity. And if we take things like a vague predicate, like order date in the last 3 months, we are handling this vagueness by picking up that concept and suggesting a starting point of, say, like 3 weeks. And again, it's just a starting point, but we're going to make it very easy for you to change that. And then tying that to some synonym resolutions, like sum of sales. So we can enter in synonyms to that make sense for our business and how we address these fields so that people, when they type it in, we know what to look for. And then we have some value indexing. So because you've already built, we already know that chairs is part of the subcategory within the data, within the metadata that you've brought into Tableau already within a data source, we know that chairs falls into that product subcategory of furniture. And then semantic knowledge, so knowledge about the real world, right? So if we put in Cali or we put CA, or we can interpret that and know it's California. Okay, and then the next thing we've built in is recommendations. And so, looking under the coverage, you'll find that we are applying machine learning in 3 different ways to learn what is relevant to Tableau users. Now, you'll see this within the portal, and we'll show this in a minute. But the first is to learn from, the 3 things are, the first one is to learn from customers or users' behaviors. So we can surface what's relevant for similar viewing patterns. The second is to learn from the metadata of each dashboard, so that Tableau can also surface related views to the one that the current user is exploring. And then the third is to learn from business data to proactively surface dashboards that contain meaningful signals. So the next thing is in the area of ML and AI, is explain data, or what we call explain the mark. And so what this allows us to do is to go from the what to the why. So we can show pertinent to you the question that you might have on your mind, and by clicking on a mark within a visualization, and what it's going to do is go through all the data that we have within this data set that we brought in and surface up some relevant correlations, right? Some things that might be affecting this particular mark or outlier. And then we also added predictive functions directly within our calculation or expression editor. And so it lets domain experts specify their predictors and build models using linear regression. And it's native within the calculations itself. And you can put several different variables in here and get a predicted either model percentile, model quartile, or prediction here, or percentage prediction. And then lastly, we're going to cover Einstein discovery in Tableau. And so we have this really tight integration now through our extensions. And when you build models, it's really intuitive. It's no code ML. So there's, this automated discovery enables you to quickly build predictions on any data. It's very trusted and transparent, and it's integrated where you work. So this is something that you can look and view directly within the Salesforce platform if that's where most of your work is happening, or we can integrate it directly into Tableau. And where do we integrate it in Tableau? We integrate it within our dashboard extensions, which we'll see. We're going to see all this in a minute. We're going to go through a demo of all these different capabilities. We could see it within analytics extension, so we can actually build stuff within a calculation and then see when we pick certain marks that we can see that those calculations happen. And then we can also include predictions to your data sets within Tableau Prep. And this is something that we just launched in 2021.1, and it does require an Einstein Discovery or a Tableau CRM license for all who view predictions. Okay, let's get into the demo. We're going to start with Ask Data. And as a user and executive that consumes this dashboard, this is all really focused around sales, right? We have some, real high-level KPIs about our sales, overall sales, sales per customer, average discount, that sort of thing. But with a dashboard like this, we might have questions. We have no information or insights about profitability. And so what I could do is I could come into my comments area here and send a note to my analyst saying, hey, can you provide me some profit information, right? And I may have to give them a lot of context here, right? Like where do I want to see this profit information? Or what do I want to break it down by? Maybe it's not it has to then be prioritized, and it's just going to take time and effort to get that turned around to me when I just have some really quick questions that I want to ask, and I don't want to wait because the data could change and be stale very quickly. So that's where Ask Data comes in. I have this little icon up at the top here. I just simply click on that, and I get taken into the Ask Data environment. And I have a bar here where I could just start to ask my questions, like what is the profit? And I can see that I have over, close to 300,000 or 300K in profitability. And then maybe I want to see this for California because that's where I live, or maybe that's where I'm responsible for looking at that profitability. And we can see it says like 76,000. And then I could simply say maybe over time. And what that's going to do, one thing you might have noticed, maybe or maybe not, is that I just misspelled over, right? So it allows you to be a little bit more vague, and we're doing some smarts behind the scenes so that you don't have to always be completely accurate. And it's recognizing over time as being some kind of time category within our data set here. And as you start to use Ask Data, you won't necessarily have to put in like what is our profit. When you go into Google, you might not you might be asking for the weather, and you might not always say what is the weather in Lake Forest, California. You're just going to say weather in Lake Forest, California, or Lake Forest weather. So it saves you time by not having to type everything in a question format. All right, so I hit enter here, and now I can see this by quarter. You notice there's some best practices built in here in the Tableau way, where it changed it from just a number to a line chart because we're looking over time. So it has some visualization best practices built in. And then what if I just want to change this to by month? I could simply do that because I want to look at it not by quarter, but by month. And I can see this, interesting trend of profitability, kind of up and down, but it's got maybe at least an upward trend. So that's very positive. So I'm starting to get some clarity around our profitability. What if I just want to do a quick calculation, like I want to do our profit divided by sales? I can easily do that in there as well, and I can start to compare, what that percentage of profitability is on a chart below here. And we can work in different sheets here. If you are somebody that works in Tableau Desktop or our web authoring capability in the server, it's very similar. And so I could start to ask more questions. And in this instance, I didn't have to ask these little pieces in chunks. I could simply come in here and just say, what is, or just say monthly profit by or for CA, right? Again, talking to that real world identification, I could just put CA and we know that it's California, and I didn't do anything to the data to prep that for that. All right, the next thing we'll look at here is on the left-hand side, we have all our fields, and what we can do here is we can actually start to profile this information over here. By just hovering over it, I can say hover over state. Come on. And I can see the type of values in here. We can see there's 49 unique values, which means there's one state that we don't either have records for or sell into. Maybe it's something we should look into. And then the top 5 states where we are selling product, or the number of records in here, because we can see that represented by a bar chart. I could also look at customer names. I can see, there's almost 800 customers that we're selling into. I can come down to date and look at, we see we have information here from 2018 to 2021. I could also come down and look at the profiles of our measures, and we can see this kind of bucketing histogram here of the type of quantities that we have within our data set. Now, if I wanted to come up here and change, I really wanted to, instead of look at summer profit, I wanted to look at average profit. I could do that. Type in average profit, hit enter. The other thing you can do is in any one of these fields, if you don't want to type, you can click into here, and now I can change the measure type directly within here. Or I could even change the field if I want a different value, if I want to start looking at discount, or maybe from a date standpoint, I wanted to change the date level here, right? From, monthly to daily, or look at ship date. So it makes it really easy to make these changes. I could even, go and maybe I want to combine this with some other states here as well. So it just gives you some options, right? Because what might happen, as I talked about before, you may put in some, call out, write something in and ask a question, and you may get a different result that you're maybe not, isn't what you're asking for. And so it makes it really easy to change that. Okay, let's start a new sheet. The other thing I want to just call out is that we have these suggested questions here. So these are very specific to the data set source that we're looking at. And so another data source might surface other questions. And so it gives you some insights and education on maybe some of the type of questions that you might want to look at based off different categorizations, some date and times, how you might want to filter. You could do things like days to actual ship between 0 and 7, and then even like viz types that you can type in to change the viz type. And we'll see that here in a few. And then what's nice about this is, as a data source owner, I can make changes to this. I could put other suggested questions. I could change or edit what's there. And we do offer some auditing capabilities as well in this data source. And what that'll allow you to do is look at some of the things that people are asking. What type of words are they using? And that'll play into the synonyms that we can add to the data set as well. But I encourage those that are data source owners to use that capability to better enhance the experience for your end users. All right, I'm going to start another. Actually, let's go back to this sheet. We haven't done anything here yet, and I'm just going to type in revenue. And one thing you may not notice, our revenue is really our sales. Why am I able to bring out or make that correlation? is because within sales here, I've created some synonyms here. I created revenue, earnings, and moolah here. So anytime somebody types in this, they will get sales. And again, this is where, knowing how you define these synonym or these data fields is going to be important. You can also you can also set data roles here. So what I can do is have a consistent taxonomy across all of our data sources, so I can actually reference other data sources and apply a data role so that we know exactly what those synonyms will be and be consistent across the environment. And so one of the things I did with this data source, I simply connected to our Superstore data set that we use in a lot of our training, and published it. I added a couple synonyms, and that's really all I did to this. And it just will, as long as Ask Data is enabled, it will just work. But with that said, even though I could do this very easily, I highly recommend that you review best practices and some of the things to consider when using Ask Data. Also encourage you to reach out to your account team and or professional services, potentially, or service partners to help and provide some guidance. So now what if I wanted to look at this by territory? Again, visualization best practices kicking in and showing us it in a map because we're looking at some geographic field. But we could also, I just want to call out that we could also come in and within our region, the actual dimension values, we can put synonyms on those as well. So what if I wanted to, in West, we also consider this to be Pacific. So I could simply add a synonym and then by Pacific. And it's going to then filter to the West. All right, I want to show a couple more examples that I think are really powerful here. One is I can come in here and what if I just said Y over Y sales or revenue, actually. So what has happened? And again, I didn't do anything to prep this, but we recognize the smarts built in that it's year over year revenue. And I could simply click on that. And then what if I wanted to change this to DOD, day over day? I can easily do that as well. And we can see that we have some interesting spikes here that we might want to investigate a little bit later. And some, again, up and down sales for, when we look at a day over day level. All right, the last example I'm going to show is maybe I want to see my profit by subcategory. Now, what's going to be interesting here, and this is one of the things I alluded to earlier about giving some recommendations here, is that we have other things that have the word category in it. So what will surface here is some suggestions, and the top one is what we think it is, but it may not always be the case, right? So again, going back to that example where you ask Siri something, and you don't get the right answer. We're trying to make it, make it relevant, make it easy by producing maybe a couple different options. And so what we really want, if I just hit enter, it's going to give me that top one. But in this case, I want to make sure I select by subcategory. And what if I wanted to just look at the top 5? I could easily do that. And now it's going to show me something interesting around the top 5 that are in what I wanted, and then all the others. And I can interact with this similar to what you might do in a dashboard. Maybe I only want to keep these top 5. So I could simply do that. Let's get rid of those. Some other things I could do is, what if I wanted to just look at the profit less than 15,000? There's another interesting thing I just want to bring up is if you're familiar with way things aggregate within Tableau, if you've been using desktop or web authoring, if I pick profit at most or less than 15,000, this top one, it's going to look at each transaction line and exclude those transactions from each one of these categories. That may or may not be what we want, but I want the sum. So each category, for each one of our subcategories, the sum of that needs to be less because I want to just get rid of those bars. So there you go. So now I got the bottom, the least profitable ones, the ones I really want to address, and maybe turn around that profitability. And then I can also always change the visualization. If I type tree map, I can now maybe see this tree map. There's also this option to drop down on the upper right and pick different types of visualizations. So again, we were able to really quickly get some insights on our profitability over time by region and product subcategory. And all I had to do was type in some simple questions. Okay, so a couple things I want to just also call out. So that was Ask Data within a dashboard. We can also access Ask Data a couple other ways. If I go to directly to a data source, I can access it this way if I have access to this data source. Another way would be embedded in a dashboard. So I have this media dashboard here that I've embedded Ask Data directly within here. So I have a little flyout, and I can just simply come in here and say, ad sales by genre, and get a quick answer directly within here. We also give you this embedded code that you could embed this outside of Tableau if you wanted to. So hopefully you were able to see like how easy it is, and and how much lower the barrier is for people that just want to go in and answer ad hoc questions. It also relieves those folks that maybe are the developers of dashboards or reports, to let them focus on higher priority things. All right, we're going to transition into our next augmented analytic, and that's around explain data or explain the mark. And I am missing something here. All right, let me start a new sheet real quick here and look at our actually, I think we'll just start with this one. All right. So what explain data allows us to do is, what we're looking at here is our Blue Bikes within Boston. So it's their biking system that you go and they're sitting on the streets. You put in a credit card, you rent them, and then you return them to any location that's out there. And so immediately what I see here is where what's the popularity of our certain locations for rentals of these bikes. And so we see that they're very popular within the Prudential Center, which is a Boston landmark, and we really want to find out why. And so simply we can click into here on any mark, and we now have this little icon here. If you could see this here in the lower right, it looks like a little light bulb thing, and it says explain data. And so when I click in there, I can start to see that there's an outlier here. And so what this is doing is going through again and profiling all the information that we have within this data set. One of the questions that I always get is it going through all the data within the source data source? So say I'm sourcing this from Snowflake. This is my metadata, right? Just the fields that I'm bringing into Tableau, just the Tableau data source. It's only going to look at the fields that I brought in on the left-hand side here, right? It's not going out, punching out into the data source, the source data source, and getting more information. It's just what you bring in here. So the interesting thing here is I see that this is an outlier, and maybe somebody just just left it on the side of the road, and there was maybe a glitch in the system or something, or maybe they kept it at their house, who knows. But we can do some more analysis on that. So one, I can open this directly within Tableau and start to explore this, do some more investigation, add more context. But the one thing I want to do here is actually, I want to take a look at this and I could always look at the data set source here. And I noticed this particular row ID is something I want to copy out because I want to filter this out on my map. So I'm going to go back to my map. So one thing I could do is I could simply exclude this from the view. And now I can see, a better distribution of data because I've removed that outlier. But what I've also removed is anything else that might be at that location. So maybe that's not what I want to do. Maybe I just want to filter out that row ID, right? So let's just filter that row ID. And now we still have the Prudential Center, but it's not as, it's not one of our most highly rented places because we've now removed that outlier and we have now a better picture of what's going on within our biking rentals. Okay. So the next thing I want to do, and I will build this out because I want to show some other examples. So let's look at our trip distance by month. And so one of the things, so say we see August is where we have the most people renting and riding bikes. So let's look at what Explain Data is doing for us. So we go in there and we see right away that weather condition is affecting why people are riding in August. And we may know some of this because it's usually nicer, but it's even more interesting that it's actually, overcast is where most of our records lie. And so the blue is representing the mark that we picked, and then we can see how it compares to all the rest of the months, which is in the gray. So we can see we have most of the records there. We can see that trip distance when it's overcast, clear, and windy, and we see about the same distribution. So we see that this top one, which shows up at the first thing, weather is the most influential metric here that is affecting why people are riding in August. Conversely, if we looked at February, we might think, oh, well, February, the weather's not great. That's got to be the most contributing factor. But lo and behold, when we look at February, we notice that it's actually the location is the most influential variable here. That we see most of our stuff is just coming out of the Cambridge area. And again, we might want to understand a little bit more, why is that? And then maybe understand, maybe because the distances that they're traveling isn't as far, it's within a concentrated area, maybe where people work or, other influencing factors. Okay, again, hopefully you can see where Explain Data, again, can really help to augment your analytics. So, you could go in here and I could, drag in my weather condition, right? I could drag, find out how that affects it. I could drag in, the distance, the type of gender. I can certainly explore that in a drag and drop fashion. But what Explain Data does is allows the most influential things to come out of the data without actually having to explore the data, and it'll just start to augment some of the things you might think, right, from a gut and experience, as well as some other factors to look at through ML AI. All right, the next thing I want to touch on is some of the predictive functions that exist in Tableau. One of the things we've always done is within our analytics tab, we've always had some things like, trend lines and forecast. Sometime back, we did add this clustering. A lot of people don't know it's there, so I want to call it out. So I can simply just drag this clustering algorithm in here. And now I can see that it clustered it in 3 clusters. I could see all my blue and how that's trending. And what we're looking at here is the average life expectancy of females based off the amount of spend on healthcare, healthcare expenditures per capita. And we could see, in this segmentation, we see uphill trends. You can go in and edit this cluster if you wanted to see more information. if you wanted to like break these out in like, larger clusters. Okay, the next thing I want to show is our predictive functions. So within our calculation editor, I'll open one of these up here. I could see that we have these new calculations. We have model percentile and model quartile. And so all I'm doing is feeding in what is the predicted life expectancy of female or male, and I'm basing this actually off a parameter. And based off of our log of or our health expenditure. And I can even add additional variables in here. I could say average CO2 emissions if I wanted to. Hit OK, bring this in, drop this on color. And let's maybe change the color to something a little more distinguishable. Maybe red, blue. And now we can see, why did that not work? Merging. So one of the things I do want to do, this is a table calculation. I want to compute this using country and region. And now we can see that as things get closer to the line, that's our predicted value is going to hold true. And as it moves further along, it is going to be the predicted value, percentage. We want to be closer to the line than away from the line. And then we want to, if we hover over some of these things, we can see things like Bolivia, the average female life expectancy is 69. And so I also put in this model quartile calculation in here that says, is it going to fall between that 10% and 90% interval? And we can see that it's, the based off of what they spend in Bolivia, the correlation is going to be very tight, and that the average life expectancy for females is 69, and it falls between that 10% and 90% threshold. Okay. The next thing I want to now cover is, which I'm very, very excited about, is the Einstein, or what we've branded as Tableau CRM integration with Tableau. So what we're looking at here is our global superstore chain within Northern Europe. And we have a dashboard like this where we regularly use this to analyze historical shipments. We can see how many are shipped early, more importantly, how many are shipped late. And we really want to get a pulse on our late shipments here. So we really want to add and augment the power of predictive capabilities to be more proactive about potential shipment delays. So how exactly are we going to do that? So let's open up Tableau CRM and what is called Analytics Studio. So I want to just show you how easy it is to create the information directly within this platform with very low code, or in this instance, really no code. So I'm going to create a data set, and it's just going to be a CSV file, and we're going to bring in our logistics demo data. And it's really easy just to bring this in. We could profile it, make sure it's what we want. We know that it's exactly what we want. And so we're going to let this bring the data set in, and we're going to ultimately create a story. A story is going to give us some insights, predictive insights, and something that we can create a model on to integrate with Tableau. And we'll show you how easy that is. So now that I have my data set, I could simply come in here and create a story. And in a story, I want to either maximize or minimize something, right? I want to maximize, in this case, my on-time, my delivery on time, because I want to know what factors is going to affect my on-time deliveries. Call it TT for Tableau Tuesday. We're going to do insights and predictions here, not just insights. And we're going to automate this process. And so what's going to do, it's going to, in a couple minutes here, it's going to give us so all kinds of insights on what factors would lead, to these different scenarios, what variables, what predictive outcomes that we might expect. And then what we'll do is we'll deploy the model, which will only, again, be something very simple, and then we'll show how we can integrate this within Tableau. And actually, I'm going to go into one that I already have built, just because in the interest of time, and that one was probably almost done. Let's see if all right, and so let's go back here to, is it almost done? No. All right. I had that one there, but let's see. Let's go into this one. Okay. I was hoping that was going to be done. So what will happen here is you'll get this output. And so what's going to happen is it's going to surface the top insights. So we can see in this instance that transport supplier, along with service level and distance, are the most contributing factors within what's going to influence our on-time shipments here. And we can see that if we look at these type of shipping carriers, we're going to see the most success in this. We can also look at our model success and see how accurate our model is. It's over 90%, which is great. And so then this is something that we want to deploy out. And then it's just a matter of really hitting the deploy model button here. We want to do it as a new prediction. We're not going to connect this to any Salesforce object, which means something, a data set within Salesforce. We already have a data set that's in here. And then we can also just select the type of variables that we want to be explored as part of this model, or be factors within this model. And we want to predict transport supplier as well as transporter service level. Review, deploy. And so that's done. And so now we can simply come over to Tableau Desktop and look at this integration. And so what we can do here is we have a dashboard here that we want to start to have this interact with some predicted elements. And we had to create a sheet within Tableau. So for those folks that are going to be building this out, with all the fields that we want to pass into the predicted model. And so we want to make sure we're matching that with the model that we're using. And so what I can do is I need to bring this sheet into the dashboard because it has to be used as the vehicle, but I'm simply going to just make it small and really hide it. We're not going to actually use it as part of the dashboard. And then I can simply bring in a dashboard extension, click on Einstein Discovery. It's going to ask us to log into Tableau or into Salesforce. And then we can simply just look at our on-time delivery. We're going to use a worksheet. You could also use parameters to pass in this information. And we're going to use the sheet as the vehicle. And it's really that simple. And because our fields match, you could map them if the fields didn't match. But we're just going to simply click done. And now we have integrated Einstein predictions in, we're able to deploy take a data set, deploy a model, or look at the model as a story. And there was some warnings here. Hold on one second. Let me go in back and reconfigure. I just don't want to show the warnings. Again, within 10 minutes, we were able to bring in a data set, build a story, deploy the model, and integrate it into Tableau Desktop. And then it's fully interactive. So as soon as this thing builds, we could see across our entire data set we're at a 43% chance that we're going to have on-time deliveries. Some of the top predictors here, and we can change how many we show. That the weather. This top one is if the weather is snowy and the delivery point is in city center, we're going to have a higher chance that it's going to be delivered on time. And then we have some prescriptive stuff, some levers that we can change to increase things. So we know we can get it at 3.2 uptick if we change the transporter service level to priority mail express. We'll have a 2.7 uptick if we change the supplier to unique logistic. And I can click on these different countries like Finland, and we can see, Finland's going to be a little less in on-time deliveries, and we can see all the contributing factors to why we might not see online or on-time deliveries. Okay, the last thing I just wanted to check or show you is we also have the ability to create calculations within Tableau. So what we can do here is if I come back to my Salesforce environment here, and I go to my model manager here, under settings, we create the Tableau code directly within here. So all I need to do is copy this in, go back to desktop, create a calculated field, maybe we want to put weather on rows, and then let's let me do this as a bar chart here. Or we want weather, and we want actually we want on time, we want deliveries on rows here. And then we could simply bring in our predicted value on color. And now we can see, let's turn on the labels. And now we can see what our predicted value is directly within Tableau by just sourcing that generated code. All right. So let's go back to, so hopefully today you were able to see how we were able to provide in our platform this entire analytics continuum, right? We're able to look at why did things happen within a dashboard through, what happened. We see what happened. We can understand why it happened through, our standard Tableau interactivity. And then we can really take that to the next level with this idea of augmented analytics to really start to understand in the future, right? We can look in the rearview mirror, we can look at present, and then we can look to the future and really augment all this stuff, using our gut and experience, using the self-service capabilities, and then the machine AI within Tableau. And so again, I think with all this, it's so important to have all these insights to really drive better business outcomes. All right. Kind of went a little long. We have a few minutes for Q&A. I don't know if we have anything on the chat. Steve?
It looks like we got most everything. One question that we do have is the Einstein Discovery piece an extra cost for Tableau users?
Are you taking it, or do you want?
What do you, if you can?
Okay, I didn't know if you. So yeah, depending on, I mean, it may be that if you're using Salesforce today, that you might have some of those licenses potentially. So you would want to check with your Salesforce team. If not, that there is, you would have to have some licenses within the Salesforce platform to be able to take advantage of this integration. So I would, encourage you to speak with your account team or your account executive and sales rep on that.
Yeah, perfect. Listen, one of our users here just asked, where could they find the example that you used to walk through on the call today? My guess would be you used a number of different data sources, but not all of them are, Superstore. So I think what we can do, Brian, is we could probably post the PowerPoint and some of the data sources that you used up into a shared location where people can download. Does that sound good?
Yep. Yeah, we can absolutely do that.
Yeah. Another question, can you use explain data on server? Absolutely. That's where all the magic happens. So you can use explain data on server or in Tableau desktop. And if I'm not mistaken, that's explain data is typically in kind of edit mode, right? So you would explain data would be surfaced through web-based authoring.
That is
All right.
correct. Yeah, there's potentially some roadmap things where that could change from an end user standpoint. But yeah, you have to either be in desktop or a web authoring to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to show, just there was an interest of time, is from an Ask Data. We didn't save out the Ask Data content that we built. Like, so you could also save out. What I was going to try and show is save all that content out and then collaborate with your end user to do more, to either build a dashboard with that information, but also to explore that outlier. And so, what you could do is an analyst could go into web authoring on the server and then click on that outlier that we saw within that daily report, day over day report, and then look at explain data, and explain data will give you some insights on, like, hey, there's some extreme value there.
Yeah. Yep. And from what I understand, explain data and ask data will be available to viewers in an upcoming release. So if you have a viewer license today, you're not able to leverage explain data or ask data, but that is looking to change in an upcoming release. So just keep your eyes open for new features on some upcoming releases, and hopefully that capability gets to surface. I think we tackled everything. So great job, Brian. This was really, really helpful. I love seeing how Tableau is able to bring really sophisticated capabilities like predictions, like AI, like ML to everyone without them really, and in some cases, without them really knowing that they're using really these sophisticated. You don't have to be a data scientist to use explain data, which I think is fantastic. And it provides incredible value, especially during your analytic journey. So thanks for showing this to us. We had a lot of questions today in regards to, hey, when can I see this recording? Can I get the slides, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said at the beginning, as we've done in the past, we've had a YouTube channel that we were able to post to. We can't post to YouTube, unfortunately, anymore due to some corporate policies. So we are looking for a new home for all of our Tableau Tuesday recordings. I'm working with our internal IT teams to get that set up. So I'm hoping that we can get that set up here in a couple weeks. And I'll be moving all of our YouTube content over to a new platform. And then just join us. This will be the big teaser. Join us next month and you'll find out where that location is. And then you guys will have access once again to all these great recordings. So, but thank you so much, everybody, for joining. We appreciate it. Brian, great job. And we'll see everybody next month. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.